Today we're gonna talk about literature and specifically the analysis of To My Dear and Loving Husband by Anne Bradstreet. In this video I will talk about the themes of this poem. But first let's read the poem at first. The poem consists of 12 lines and it reads as following. If ever two were one, then surely we. If ever man were loved by wife, then thee. Thee here means you. That's archaic version of you. If ever wife was happy in a man, comma, the rest of the sentence is not completed, but it's implied. It means that if ever wife was happy in a man, it means I am surely, or I surely am happy with you. Compare with me, ye women, if you can. Ye women, it means you women. That's also an archaic version of you. I prize thy love more than whole mines of gold. Thy love means your love. Your love. She thinks that her husband's love is more worth than the mines of gold. Or all the riches that the East doth hold. Doth here is an archaic version of does. It's a word that was used back then, but no longer used now. We call it archaic. Let's continue. My love is such that rivers cannot quench. The word quench means to satisfy someone's thirst. Okay, to satisfy someone's thirst. If you are very thirsty, she's comparing her love to that as if it's a river that cannot be quenched ever. Nor aught but love from thee give recompense. Thee here means you, as I said. It means that her husband's love cannot be recompensated or paid back. Thy love, your love, thy love is such I can no way repay. The heavens reward thee manifold. She's saying that only the heavens can reward you several times for your love. I pray, she prays for that. She asks God for that. We know that Anne Bradstreet was very religious because she was a Puritan. The last two lines, then while we live in love, let's so persevere. Persevere is an archaic word for persevere. It's now what we know as persevere. Back then it was pronounced as persever, so it rhymes with the last word of the next line. Then while we live in love, let's so persevere, that when we live no more, we may live ever. She's basically saying that she's asking her husband to stay loyal to her and stay truthful and loyal in their love to each other, so that their love after they die, and sooner or later she acknowledges death, and sooner or later she will die, she knows that, so that their love when she dies, their love can live forever in the eternal life, or the afterlife. Now let's move to the themes of this poem. What's a theme? The theme of a piece of poetry or short story is the underlying message that the writer or artist wants to convey. It's the main idea or the main ideas of the poem. So let's take a look at the first theme we have. Love. To My Dear and Loving Husband is one giant love fest. It's at the very it talks several times. It talks about love. So basically, the poem is one giant love poem, and it's not just about any old kind of love. We're talking about unconditional, unstoppable, undying love. So it's a love that transcends all boundaries, even time boundaries. Even after the two persons or the two lovers are dead, this love will be eternal. It's immortal love. The speaker spends the bulk of the poem coming up with different ways to describe her love, for her totally awesome husband, which is so strong that not even a river can quench it, she claims. In addition to the speaker's love for her husband, so the first point talks about Anne Bradstreet's love toward her husband. The second point talks about her husband's love toward her. So she describes her husband's love for her also in the poem. By the end of the poem, the speaker or the poet, Anne Bradstreet, suggests that the love between her and her husband is so powerful that it can somehow give them immortality. Next, we have another theme, which is marriage. Marriage. This poem has the word husband, of course, in the title, so logically the poem talks about marriage, and Anne Bradstreet holds marriage in a high status since she lives in a very conservative Puritan, rather to say, in a very conservative society. She holds marriage in a high status. The poem describes a near-perfect union between two people. Both the speaker and her husband love each other very much, and their marriage is so perfect that they are essentially one person. At the same time, the speaker repeatedly describes her relationship with her husband in terms of payment and recompense. She sees her relationship or her marriage as an investment. She invests time and feelings and emotions, and she pays that and gets payback or recompense from her husband, which makes marriage sounds like a kind of a business arrangement. The third one is death. Death. Death is not actually mentioned explicitly or directly in the poem, but it is implied nonetheless. In the last two lines of the poem, for example, the speaker talks about how the love between her and her husband might allow them to live forever, thereby cheating death. That's how they kind of cheat death, by allowing their love to stay immortal or to be immortal and to stay in the afterlife. At another point in the poem, the speaker describes her love as undying, because no river can quench it. She likens her love as if it's a thirst, a type of thirst, or we can say also like a fire. You know, if you have a very vast fire, a very soaring fire, that all the waters from the oceans or the river cannot quench it or cannot extinguish it or put it out. That means it's very large and it's very raging. So she likens her love to a river that cannot, she likens her love to a status that cannot be quenched even by rivers, and also cannot be stopped by it. So that's it. It seems as if the two goes in hands. The two here we mean death and love. After all, it turns out that both of them, they go hand in hand, death and love. Religion. The last theme of all is religion. It's very obvious, it goes without saying, I may say, that Anne Bradstreet, she was a very religious woman. She was a Puritan, and that back then that society paid extra attention and to religion, and religion took most of their daily focus. So the poem has plenty to say about religion, but it's very discreet and careful about it. The speaker does not come right out and say it, but for her, love and religion are very close. The first few lines of the poem describe love with very subtle references to the Bible. She thinks that her love is holy, and she holds marriage in a very high status. All of these are principles implied or inferred from the Bible, inferred from Christianity. In addition, Christianity also sees marriage as the only way a man and woman can be together. In addition to that, the last line of the poem talks about the love as the key to immortality, or we can say to salvation. Salvation is a principle, right, or a canon in Christianity. And remember, Bradstreet, like I said, lived in a very religious society among Puritans and preachers. So this close relationship between love and religion makes perfect sense. Thank you, class. Have a nice day.